Jessica, an 87-year-old woman, was used to the harshness and hostility of life on the streets. His daily routine was marked by the meticulous counting of every penny earned through alms, trying to guarantee the minimum necessary for his survival. On one of those days, she entered a renowned bakery in the city, her hesitant and shy step revealing her discomfort in an environment that didn't seem to belong to her. The clock was almost noon when Jessica walked through the bakery's automatic doors. Her footsteps echoed in the busy hall, where people passed by her without really noticing her. With her threadbare scarf wrapped around her wrinkled neck and white hair tousled by the icy maplewood wind, Jessica looked out of place. His clothes, faded and worn, could not hide the signs of a difficult life. At 87 years old, the marks of his existence on the streets were evident. Some people watched her with pity, others looked away, uncomfortable with her presence. Jessica had learned to accept these looks over the years, considering them part of her routine. The compassion he received was often just a cover for the discomfort he caused. The only souvenir he had left of his daughter Amanda, who died 30 years ago in a car accident, was a silver necklace with a blue quartz pendant. The loss of Amanda had been a devastating blow, sending Jessica down a path of sadness and abandonment. With no living family members and plunged into grief, Jessica watched her life fall apart and eventually lead to her living on the streets. At the bakery, Jessica stopped in front of the display full of bread, pastries, and cakes. His tired gaze fixed on a simple loaf of bread, wrapped in transparent plastic. She knew that the bakery's homemade bread was cheaper than the industrialized ones and began counting her coins with trembling fingers, trying to calculate if she had enough to satisfy her hunger. The coins, worn and dull, were all Jessica owned. The attendant, a young woman with dyed green hair, noticed Jessica and looked at her with curiosity and sympathy. It was rare to see someone in such a humble situation there, and Jessica's fragility sparked an empathetic response. "Can I help you, ma'am?" The attendant's voice was soft, contrasting with the hustle and bustle of the bakery. Jessica, her wrinkled blue eyes shining with gratitude, murmured, "A piece of bread, please." She shakily handed out the coins, and the attendant, counting quickly, realized that the amount was insufficient. "Of course, ma'am. One moment, please. Let's see what we can do." The young woman put the bread in a plain paper bag and handed it to Jessica. For the elderly woman, that piece of bread meant much more than a simple meal. It was a promise of relief from his constant hunger. As Jessica surveyed the bakery around her, she felt like a distant spectator, immersed in a world from which she felt excluded. When the attendant handed over the bag of bread, Jessica thanked her with a fragile smile. "Thank you very much, young lady. May God bless you." The attendant, touched by Jessica's dignity, smiled back. "There's nothing to be thankful for. Take care of yourself, okay?" Jessica, with the warmth of freshly baked bread in her hands, stepped away from the counter, feeling a little lighter despite the weight of her life on the streets. With slow steps, she started towards the cashier. Michael, the bakery manager, watched the interaction with a closed, displeased look. He had made it clear to his team that they should not offer food to the homeless. The attendant's generous attitude was disobeying a direct order. Michael approached with firm steps and his gaze fixed on the attendant and Jessica. "Ashley," he called irritably, "how many times have I talked about this? We can't keep giving everyone free food." Jessica, holding the piece of bread, looked at Michael with embarrassment and sadness. "I have some coins, sir," she said, holding out a trembling hand. "Maybe that's enough." Michael cast a disdainful glance at the worn-out coins and replied rudely, "That's not even enough for a crumb. The most you'll do here is disturb the customers or try to steal someone's wallet. You need to get out of here now." Jessica tried to appeal to the compassion she had sensed in Ashley, but Michael was adamant. "Please, I just need some food. Anything." The interaction attracted the customer's attention, and a middle-aged woman sitting near the counter commented loudly, "You're disturbing everyone here. Why don't you order somewhere else?" Ashley uncomfortably mumbled to Jessica, "I'm sorry, I really wanted to help, but..." Feeling the heat of shame, Jessica looked at Michael, hoping for a change in attitude, but his face remained implacable. The manager, determined to end the situation, firmly repeated, You need to leave now, taking the bag of bread from the elderly woman's hand. Jessica, realizing that any attempt at dialogue was doomed to failure, lowered her head and slowly turned away, leaving the bakery with a feeling of defeat. While the coin she had so carefully counted still dangled in her hand, Jessica walked away from the bakery. The murmurs of disapproval followed her, lingering like a shadow, until she was out of sight. Michael, with a disapproving look, turned to Ashley and said, "If you want to keep working here, you need to follow the rules. This is for the good of the bakery. Throw that piece of bread away. It must be dirty after that old woman got her hands on it." Ashley just nodded, but her heart was heavy. I watched Jessica walk away, feeling a deep sadness at the cruelty the world could show to the most vulnerable people. Michael, pleased to restore order, turned to continue his work, but the unease in the air lingered like an unwelcome shadow. Earlier that day, Christopher, a stylish businessman known for his upscale boutiques, had popped into the bakery for a quick coffee. He observed the situation with an expression of growing concern, which turned to disturbance as he witnessed the way Jessica was being treated. For Christopher, the turning point was when Michael refused to give up the piece of bread to the elderly woman and then ordered it to be discarded. When Jessica turned to leave, Christopher, with firm steps and an indignant expression, approached Michael. "I'm sorry," began Christopher, his voice controlled but filled with cold fury. "This is absolutely unacceptable. How can you treat someone like that?" Michael, caught off guard by the intervention, became a little defensive. "I didn't expect someone so powerful to get involved in defending a homeless woman. I knew that Christopher was a great businessman and a loyal customer of the bakery." Michael tried to justify his attitude. "She was bothering customers. She is homeless and had no money to pay." Christopher, his eyes still sparkling with indignation, replied, "That doesn't give you the right to treat her with contempt. She is a human being and was asking for food, not alms. It's essential to show a little empathy." Michael hesitated, noticing the seriousness in Christopher's tone. Some customers around them began to notice the conversation, and the uneasiness in the air grew. Ashley, who was watching closely, felt a twinge of hope when she saw someone defending Jessica. Christopher continued, now in a firmer voice. "As a manager, you have a responsibility to treat all people with dignity. This woman has as much right to a piece of bread as any of us and deserves respect for being elderly. It is our obligation to help those in need, especially in situations like this." Michael opened his mouth to respond, but Christopher interrupted with a wave of his hand. "I will pay for her bread and whatever else she needs. And I hope next time you think twice before treating someone this way." Without waiting for a response, Christopher headed for the door, following Jessica's footsteps. Ashley, seizing the moment, grabbed an extra loaf of bread and put it in a bag, quickly handing it to Christopher as he passed by. "Thank you so much for this," the attendant said softly, her eyes meeting Christopher's gratefully. Christopher nodded, picked up the bag of bread, and left in a hurry. He found Jessica outside, sitting on the curb with the coin still in her hand. Christopher knelt beside her, holding out the bag of bread Ashley handed him. "Sorry about what happened in there," Christopher said gently. "Here's some food for you. What is your name?" Jessica looked at him, surprised and touched by his unexpected kindness. "Thanks. My name is Jessica," she murmured, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't know how to thank you." Christopher smiled softly. "You don't need to thank me. Just take care of yourself, and if you need more help, you can reach out to me. My name is Christopher." Jessica held the bread gratefully, feeling a comforting warmth in her chest. For a moment, the hardships of life on the street seemed a little less burdensome thanks to a stranger's act of kindness. Christopher, when he stood up, felt that he had done something truly important that day, something that could perhaps inspire others to do the same. Still, Christopher realized that this was not enough. After all, the elderly woman had been humiliated by the manager. Soon, an idea began to form in his mind. He then turned to Jessica, still sitting on the sidewalk, and said gently, "Jessica, please follow me. A piece of bread is not enough. I'll buy you lunch." The two entered the bakery again. Christopher, with a firm and determined expression, addressed Michael again. "I sincerely hope you reflect on this. No business should prosper at the expense of human dignity. Michael, still surprised and disconcerted, remained silent. Christopher then made a request. I know the owner of this bakery, and, with one call, I could make his life a lot more complicated. Although it is not my objective, I also do not agree that your attitude should go unpunished. I'm going to pay for this lady's lunch, and I insist that you prepare it. Who knows, maybe this will teach you something about humility. Christopher chose the biggest and most expensive snack on the menu. Ashley, with a supportive smile, looked at Christopher with satisfaction, feeling inspired by the man's act of kindness. The action in the bakery remained tense, but Christopher's gesture caused, for a moment, the previously murmuring customers to now watch in silence, some clearly touched by the intervention. While Michael prepared Jessica's lunch, Christopher invited her to sit at a more private table so she could eat more calmly. Please sit down for a moment while your snack is ready, Christopher said, gently guiding Jessica to a table. You deserve so much more than a piece of bread. Jessica agreed, still visibly emotional. I don't know how to thank you. Christopher responded with a warm smile. We all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. You are no different. Despite the table being far away, some customers began to murmur among themselves, but their expressions softened as they realized the depth of Christopher's gesture. Ignoring the comments, he was focused on learning the elderly woman's story. Jessica, I'd love to hear from you, if you don't mind. Sorry for the question, but how old are you? How did you get to this situation? Christopher asked gently. How can you live on the streets at such an old age? Jessica, visibly uncomfortable being in the spotlight, was initially hesitant. However, noticing the sincerity in Christopher's eyes, he began to speak. Ah, sir, life on the streets is not easy. You have no idea how hard it is to receive contemptuous looks every day. People pass by you as if you were invisible, or worse, as if you were a nuisance. She paused, remembering moments of pain. Sometimes, young people make fun of me, throw things, or act cruelly. Others look at me with fear, as if I would cause harm just by sitting there on the sidewalk. Jessica reflected for a moment, considering before continuing. I can't complain about everything, she began, with a melancholy lightness. Sometimes I receive some handouts. These small generosity are what allow me to continue. She went a little further into her story. I've been living on the street for a few years now. I lost my house when I could no longer pay the rent. My daughter passed away many years ago, and I no longer have any relatives. I've always tried to get by with few resources, but the situation has only gotten worse. Little by little, I lost everything I had. Christopher listened attentively, his expression reflecting deep empathy and concern. This must be extremely difficult for you, Jessica. I'm so sorry for everything you've been through. Jessica shook her head, fixing her eyes on the table. Yes, but I try to move on. The people on the street are my only company now. Most of them are in the same situation as me, struggling to survive day after day. Sometimes we help each other, sharing what little we have, but it's never easy. Christopher felt a lump in his throat. It was difficult to imagine how anyone could endure such a difficult life, especially at his age. Is there somewhere you can go, some shelter or social services that can help you? I've tried a few shelters, Jessica replied with a sigh. But they are always crowded and getting a spot is difficult. Plus, it's not safe. I've seen a lot of bad things happen in these places. I prefer the street because at least I know what to expect. Michael, who had finished preparing the snack, brought the plate to Jessica. Christopher nodded his thanks and turned his attention to Jessica. I would like to do more for you, Jessica. Not just today, but in a lasting way. Is there anything I can help with to improve your situation? Jessica looked at Christopher with surprise and excitement. I don't know. I don't want to be a burden on anyone. This lunch is enough, he replied, starting to eat his snack. Christopher continued to reflect, still finding it difficult to believe that an 87-year-old woman lived on the streets. It was then that he noticed something peculiar about Jessica's neck. A thin silver necklace with a blue quartz stone in the pendant, standing out from her worn scarf. The sight of the necklace aroused in Christopher a deep curiosity, mixed with admiration and perplexity. Jessica, Christopher said, trying to keep his tone natural. That necklace looks pretty special. Can you tell me more about it? Jessica looked at the necklace, as if she was only now aware of its presence. She caressed the surface of the blue quartz pendant with a tender touch, and then turned to Christopher with a distant look, marked by deep memories. Yes, it has a lot of sentimental value to me. When things started to fall apart, I thought about selling it several times, but I couldn't. It's all I have left of the past, a memory of a time when I was happy and had a different life. Silence took over again, as if Jessica was lost in thought. This necklace is one of the last memories I have of my daughter, Amanda. After the accident, the hospital gave me this necklace that she wore on the day of the tragedy, said Jessica, her voice filled with sadness. The mention of an accident and the name Amanda made Christopher shudder slightly. Amanda? He echoed, feeling an unexpected connection. His heart raced as the pieces began to come together in his mind. Could you tell me more about her? Jessica, noticing Christopher's sudden and deep interest, continued with a mixture of sadness and pride. Amanda was my only daughter, a bright and lively young woman. She was a kind person, always concerned about others. She dreamed of being an artist and spent hours drawing and painting. That's why she went to fashion school. Christopher listened intently, his heart heavy with Jessica's story of loss. The mention of fashion school made him even more nervous.
I'm sorry, Jessica.
It must have been really hard. Jessica nodded, moistening her eyes. Losing Amanda was the worst pain I've ever felt. It was a terrible, unexpected accident. She had so much ahead of her. Christopher murmured, moved by Jessica's palpable sadness. I can't imagine what it was like for you. He struggled to bring up the subject that was eating him up inside. After she passed, the necklace became my last connection with her. It's like a piece of her was always with me, Jessica continued, holding the necklace tenderly. Christopher looked at Jessica with a new understanding. Jessica, I know this might sound weird, but you said her name is Amanda, right? Jessica nodded, curious at the change in Christopher's tone. Yes, Amanda was a young woman full of life and ambition. She always said she wanted to make a difference in the world. She worked hard in everything she did. It was a devastating loss, not just for me, but for everyone who knew her. Christopher listened intently, holding his hands to control his tremors of emotion. Has she ever mentioned a friend or boyfriend named Christopher? Jessica was speechless, tears streaming down her cheeks. Fate intertwined their stories in a surprising way. Christopher held Jessica's hand gently, sharing the weight of her pain and offering silent comfort as she fought back the tears. After composing herself, Jessica observed Christopher with a new curiosity. Yes, she mentioned a Christopher, said he had been the great love of her life. Are you telling me it's that Christopher? Christopher was speechless for a moment, as memories of Amanda flooded his mind. He finally nodded, his eyes fixed on Jessica's. I believe so. Jessica smiled slightly through her tears. My God, this is incredible. Amanda spoke of you so fondly, as someone who inspired and loved her deeply. Christopher felt a mixture of emotions, from sadness at the loss of Amanda to a strange sense of gratitude for having shared precious moments with her. The next few minutes were filled with Christopher explaining his history with Amanda. She was also very important to me. We were young people full of dreams. Christopher recalled the beginning of his journey in economics college, when he met Amanda. She was studying fashion and soon became a close friend. There was something passionate about the way he talked about life, something that inspired him to pursue his dreams with renewed fervor every day. At first, they were just friends, but as the years went by, he realized that his feelings for her had transformed into something deeper. When they were on the verge of graduation, Christopher decided to declare his love for her. On the night of the ball, he presented Amanda with a silver necklace adorned with a small blue quartz pendant. Christopher paused, swallowing hard, before continuing. After graduation, he left for a 6-month exchange in the United States. Their relationship was blossoming, and the distance didn't diminish the passion they shared. They talked every night on the phone, counting down the days until they would meet again. Christopher always asked if Amanda still wore the necklace, and she always confirmed. However, one day, the call went unanswered. A week later, A friend of Amanda's got in touch to report a tragic accident. Christopher was paralyzed by pain. There were only 3 months left until the end of his exchange, and he didn't get the chance to say goodbye. He spoke regretfully, his voice breaking. Jessica, listening attentively, held the necklace with the delicacy that was characteristic of her. Christopher's words awakened vivid memories of Amanda, his beloved daughter, and tears began to stream down Jessica's face. She had become a shadow of the person she was before the accident. The loss of Amanda had left a deep void in his life. Christopher felt their shared pain and offered his support to Jessica, trying to ease some of the weight he was carrying. Jessica gently touched Christopher's hand, offering silent comfort. It's comforting to know that Amanda had someone like you by her side. She always spoke about your support and the positive influence you had on her life. She carried this necklace, a piece of you, until the last moment. Christopher broke the silence with a soft voice. I will never forget Amanda and everything she meant to me. Knowing her was a blessing. Thank you for sharing this with me, Christopher, Jessica replied, her eyes shining with gratitude. You brought new meaning to the necklace and Amanda's memories. Christopher smiled, a gleam of determination in his eyes. I want to do more for you, Jessica. For Amanda. I can't accept this being just lunch. How can I help? Jessica thought for a moment, touching the necklace again. Your presence and your words mean a lot to me. This lunch was more than I expected. I just wanted a piece of bread. Christopher shook his head, a new determination rising within him. No, Jessica. I need to help honor Amanda's memory and find peace in my heart, knowing that I did the last act of love for her. Christopher's voice cracked as he continued. Amanda was an incredible person. Not a day goes by without me thinking about her. Knowing that this necklace is with you brings me a little peace. But I can't accept that you, the mother of the woman I loved so much, live on the street. Jessica, moved, looked at Christopher with tears in her eyes. It's clear how much you loved my daughter. It must have been as hard for you as it was for me. Don't worry about me. Christopher felt a new determination rise within him. Life has given me the chance to honor Amanda's memory. I will take you off the streets. Come with me to my house, and I will provide everything you need to live comfortably. Jessica nodded gratefully. My God, Christopher, I don't know what to say. Christopher excused himself from Jessica and made an urgent call, canceling all his appointments for the rest of the week. Determined to help Jessica as best he could, he guided her to her car with a gentle smile. When they arrived at Christopher's house, Jessica was dazzled by the grandeur and luxury of the place. It was an imposing environment that she had never known. Christopher welcomed her, saying, Make yourself comfortable, Jessica. This will be your home for the next few days. Here, you don't have to worry about anything. He led her through the elegant entrance and showed her the spacious, well-decorated interior of the house. Christopher introduced Jessica to the room she would temporarily occupy and assigned one of the maids, Melissa, as the elderly woman's personal caregiver. Melissa was a friendly and welcoming woman, ready to meet Jessica's every need. If you need anything, Melissa is here to help. If you're hungry, she can prepare something at any time, Christopher explained with a reassuring smile. Melissa, with a warm smile, invited Jessica for a walk in the garden while she prepared tea and a piece of cake. While strolling through the well-kept garden, Melissa and Jessica chatted. Melissa told stories about her work and her family, while Jessica spoke about her life on the streets and the difficulties she faced. You're a very kind person, Melissa. I'm so grateful for all of this, Jessica said, touched by the kindness and hospitality she was receiving. Melissa smiled and placed a cup of tea and a piece of cake in front of Jessica on an outdoor table. We're here to help you. Mr. Christopher is like that, always willing to make a difference in people's lives. As Jessica enjoyed the hot tea and soft cake, she looked around, still amazed by Christopher's generosity and wealth. She knew her life was about to change in ways she had never imagined. The next morning, Christopher informed Jessica that he would spend the day resolving commitments and would not be able to take her due to her age. He reiterated that Melissa would be available to help with any needs. Jessica accepted with a nod, grateful for the attention and care she was receiving. She spent the day exploring Christopher's comfortable home, familiarizing herself with the safe environment she now had in which to rest. Jessica and Melissa grew even closer, sharing stories in the sunny garden. Jessica told Melissa about Amanda, her beloved daughter who had been tragically lost in a car accident. He described the necklace he now carried as one of the few tangible souvenirs of Amanda, a true symbol of love and pain. Jessica, while adjusting her necklace, spoke with a sparkle in her eyes about the special connection she had created with Christopher. She fondly recalled how a successful businessman, whom life had treated generously, had decided to welcome an 87-year-old homeless woman into his home. This gesture of compassion seemed like a fairy tale in the midst of everyday life. On the other hand, Melissa revealed her own story, a saga of grief and survival. Years earlier, the loss of her husband had left her alone with 2 young children to raise. The daily fight for survival had been arduous, but Melissa never lost hope. "Grief teaches you a lot about life," she said with a tone of wisdom. "Even in pain, we are sure that those we love are still watching us. Amanda is watching over you from heaven, just like my husband takes care of me and our children." His words were a comfort, a reminder that despite the challenges, life continued to be a journey of resilience and hope. Jessica felt deeply touched by Melissa's empathy. Living on the streets, she rarely found anyone with whom she could share her pain and hopes in such an intimate way. Melissa was not just a temporary caregiver, but a true friend, someone who understood and shared Jessica's struggle. Later, Christopher arrived home with a determined look on his face. With a tone of urgency, he asked Jessica and Melissa to accompany him without asking questions. They headed to a mall where Jessica could pick out new clothes while Christopher took care of essential grocery shopping. Melissa helped Jessica select clothes that were not only practical, but also stylish and comfortable. With the purchases in hand, Christopher took the two to a high-end apartment complex. Jessica, used to a very different life, felt uncomfortable in this sophisticated environment. But Christopher, with a gentle gesture, reassured her. In the elevator, Christopher pressed the button for the 5th floor. When the doors opened, an elegant hallway led to a large, luxurious apartment. Christopher, with a serious but warm expression, turned to Jessica and said, "The loss of Amanda was a pain that never went away. Finding you and being able to help now is a gift for me. This apartment is for you, a safe and comfortable place that I hope you call home." Jessica's tears flowed freely as she gazed at the tastefully furnished and luxuriously equipped apartment. Never in his life had he imagined that someone could be so generous. She felt truly blessed to have found not just a home, but true friends. Christopher guided Jessica and Melissa through the apartment, showing each room with pride. Melissa, attentive to Jessica's needs, brought the grocery shopping and new clothes, organizing everything carefully. As the afternoon turned to evening, Christopher and Melissa helped Jessica settle in, transforming the apartment into a vibrant, promising home. Before leaving, Christopher made an announcement that left Jessica emotional and speechless. Melissa would be his caregiver, and they would share the apartment. Christopher committed to covering all monthly costs and bills, ensuring Jessica didn't have to worry financially. Jessica, with a heart full of gratitude, expressed her deep appreciation. "Nothing I do will be enough to thank you." Christopher smiled and said he would give Jessica a few days to adjust to her new life, but that he had more plans for the future. Jessica, now adapting to her new home, began to enjoy simple pleasures, such as watching an entire episode of the 9 o'clock soap opera, something she had loved when she was young. 3 days later, Christopher returned, eager to discuss a new project. Sitting at the kitchen table, he proposed the creation of a community fund to help homeless people. This fund would not only provide food, but also services such as employment guidance and access to housing, a true step towards transforming lives and providing hope. Christopher's goal was clear: to prevent other people, like Jessica, from having to face life on the streets. Jessica, looking back on her experience at the bakery, felt it was imperative to offer more than just food. It was necessary to provide real opportunities so that individuals could rebuild their lives with dignity. Christopher firmly expressed his vision of creating a community center that would not only provide meals, but also offer job training courses, job search assistance, and psychological support. His idea was enthusiastically received by Jessica, who completely agreed that more needed to be done to support those most in need, especially the elderly. In the following days, Christopher mobilized his company's entire management team to turn this vision into reality. Meetings were held with community members, local business owners, and officials to discuss how they could collaborate and create a lasting positive impact. The concept evolved into a concrete action plan, with well-defined steps for creating the fund, including fundraising, partnerships with local entities, and defining the first beneficiaries. The positive energy and enthusiasm of everyone involved was palpable, fueled by the idea of doing something meaningful to help those most in need. Meanwhile, Jessica, still adjusting to her new home and Melissa's loving care, felt deeply grateful to have found Christopher. As the community fund project took shape, she became increasingly involved, sharing her story and inspiring others with her resilience and hope. Jessica's life, which had been marked by adversity and loneliness, was now filled with possibility and purpose thanks to Christopher's kindness and vision, as well as the unity of the community around her. After a few months of running the project, Christopher announced the decision to increase his financial contribution to the community fund and committed to talking to other local businesspeople to encourage them to participate, whether by offering jobs, health services, or other forms of support. "If each of us does a little, we can make a big impact," he explained. Word about the community fund quickly spread throughout the city, inspiring other establishments and business owners to adopt more inclusive and humane practices in their own operations. Donations began to arrive in the form of money, food, clothing, and even volunteering. Meanwhile, Amanda's necklace continued to adorn Jessica's neck, a powerful symbol of her and Christopher's shared journey. It was a reminder not only of the loss they had both faced, but also of their compassion and determination to make a difference in the lives of others. Christopher continued to visit Jessica regularly, discussing the fund's progress and listening to her ideas with genuine interest. Over time, the connection between them grew stronger, guided by the hope of creating a fairer and more welcoming future for everyone. The story of Jessica and Christopher's encounter demonstrated how small acts of kindness can have a profound and lasting impact. Amanda's memory remained alive through Christopher's actions, inspiring a wave of compassion and solidarity throughout the city. The chance meeting at the bakery turned out to be a turning point that brought together two destinations so close, but at the same time so far away. So Jessica and Christopher's journey was not just a story of encounters and destinies, but a powerful testimony to the power of compassion and determination to make a difference. Their lives, united by Amanda's necklace, became a beacon of hope, lighting the way to a world where empathy and hope are the most important values. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave yours like. Your support makes all the difference and helps us continue to bring you more amazing content. Do you have any opinions, questions, or suggestions? Leave a comment here below. I love reading and responding to what you have to say. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the bell so you don't miss any news. We have new videos every day, and you won't want to miss out. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.